Hello, everyone, and thank you for watching Northwest Public Broadcasting's Vote 2026 coverage of the 4th Congressional District primary in Washington State. That 4th District has been long held by Dan Newhouse, but after announcing in December he would not seek re-election, that left a seat open for one of 11 candidates on the primary ballot. My name is Matt Lovelace. Today, we at Northwest Public Broadcasting, in collaboration with AARP of Washington State and the League of Women Voters of Benton and Franklin counties and the League of Women Voters of Yakima County, are helping you get to know some of these candidates. Some newcomers, some familiar challengers, and we have some questions for them. This is not a debate nor a forum. We have taken the opportunity to schedule time with the candidates one-on-one. We'd like our viewers and listeners to consider this a bit of a video voter's guide where we've collaborated on a series of questions. Each candidate will get all of these same questions and the same opportunity to answer. We'll time the responses here in our NWPB studio on the WSU Tri-Cities campus. We thank you for watching. And now we begin NWPB's Vote 2026 primary election coverage as we get to know candidates in the 4th Congressional District primary. I'm joined now by Jerrod Sessler, familiar with this campaign in the 4th. You ran in 2022, made it to the general in 2024. So here you are again. We thank you for your time, and we just have a quick Q&A set up for you. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much for being here, as usual. Well, first of all, we want to talk about affordability and the cost of living on top of mind for a number of people. Everyone, including older adults, facing rising costs for essentials, groceries, gas, utilities. If elected, what federal actions would you prioritize in order to help older adults, maybe on fixed incomes, afford their groceries and their lifestyle?
Yeah, it's a very good question. It's probably my number one campaign promise, is related to affordability. But before we jump into that, I just want to thank AARP for hosting and for League of Women and for you coming and, spending your time doing this. I got my AARP membership a couple of years ago, and so I'll be 57 this year. I didn't realize there was not an age limit for it, so I'm very thankful for that and all the benefits that come with it. When I was a kid, my parents bought a home with about 6 months' salary. When I was 22, I bought my first home with 2 years' salary. Today, my kids in their 20s are now looking at 7 to 10 years salary in order to own a home. That's not the American dream, and we have to fix that. A lot of the inflationary action has been, or results in our country have been because of excess government spending. And they just basically print money. It increases the amount of money in the marketplace, and it decreases the amount of goods in comparison, and costs for everything go up. I just filled up my truck on the way here because I have to head up to Okanagan after this interview, and it was nice because it was only the top half of the truck and or the top half of the tank I had to fill, so I didn't have to fill the whole thing. But we have to rein in spending, and one thing that people have to remember is that it's very quick to break things. It takes time to fix them. We have to go with DOGE cuts. We have to decrease government spending. We have to decrease the size of government, and we have to make sure that we don't cut the important things that are important to our citizens and to our voters. We pay taxes because we care about safety, we care about roads, we care about Medicaid, and we care about, taking care of our veterans and our elderly. We don't care about social issues and spending money to give cell phones and room and board to illegals and, paying for DEI hires and paying for all this stuff that a lot of these people that have gotten into government want to support these crazy social issues at the cost of the things that are really important to us. And so I'll do everything I can. The long answer to this from a federal is we need to reduce spending. There's the short answer. The longer answer is, which is would take me several minutes to explain, is we need to repeal the 17th Amendment because it basically breaks the state sovereignty with the federal sovereignty, and we need to return that. We need to decentralize power out of D.C. and give it back to the states, and that will help the states be more effective. We obviously have a lot of work here to do in Washington, Olympia. That's a whole nother story, but I'll do everything I can to protect people's wallets here in central Washington.
Not enough time to answer many of these complex questions, we understand,
for sure.
But we're just going to get a snapshot here. Speaking of snapshots, we do want to talk about voting, mail-in voting in particular, because Washington State has a long history of vote by mail, offers multiple voting options, including voting in person, of course. If elected, how would you approach maintaining access while also ensuring election security and public confidence in that voting system?
Yeah, well, I was invited by General Flynn and Captain Seth Cashel. President Trump asked them to put together a election integrity task force in Washington, D.C., and so I was invited to be a part of that. And so this is a project that I've been working on for years. I think personally that it's offensive to tell citizens that, or to propagate the idea that it's difficult or more difficult to vote just because you have to show an ID, or I just think that's offensive. You're basically telling people that, oh, you're not smart enough, good enough, able enough, whatever. None of us are against being able to offer access to citizens. What we want control mechanisms to make sure that valid votes are being counted. If even one invalid vote is included, that means that it fractionates all the rest of the votes, and that's a civil rights violation, which Harmeet Dillon has been working on. The president recently signed an executive order basically putting some controls on the United States Post Office, which will really help in terms of tracking those ballots to make sure that we're not having fraudulent ballots. And I also got to be in Washington, D.C. on March 25th of last year to present before Congress about President Trump's original executive order for this term on election integrity, where there was no edicts in it. He was merely quoting existing laws that many states, Washington included, are not following, and basically saying like, hey, you need to start following these laws to make sure that our votes are one person, one citizen, one qualified voter, one vote. And I'll just end with this. You know, they removed 800,000 votes off the voter rolls in Oregon recently. Oregon has half the population of Washington, but we're sort of in the same region. They operate in similar ways. I would venture to say that we're right to say we have over 1 million invalid voters or fake or incorrect voters on our voter rolls here in Washington State, and we need to fix that.
All right, thank you. And then our next question, talking about Social Security, and obviously we're collaborating here with AARP. So if elected, how would you work to protect and strengthen Social Security for older Americans, for their children, and for their grandchildren?
Yeah, well, it goes back to the answer I had to the original question. We're spending a lot of money on things that people don't care about. Politicians and social activists care about gender studies in Pakistan. Most Americans don't. We care about taking care of our elderly, taking care of our veterans, making sure that we can afford things, making sure our property taxes are not, basically spending us off of the homes. I own my own home, my own property, spent my whole life working on it, but yet I still have to pay $20,000 a year in property taxes and water rights. And that just seems kind of excessive. And so we just have to prioritize it. We all know that Social Security is going to be insolvent here in the next few years. It needs to be funded. We, the people, have paid into that, so we need to adjust our budget to make sure that it continues. Now, here's the fear that I have with it. The fear that I have is career bureaucrats are going to offer declining services to those people who are getting Social Security benefits, even though they have paid in at full rate. If we took the money that we paid in for decades and we put it in just a moderate investment, we'd be getting a much larger return out of it today than what we're getting. And so it has to be prioritized. We can't have people that double speak in DC and do not fund our Social Security for their elderly who have paid into it our entire lives.
All right, thank you very much. All right, next question is just about caregiving. And if elected, how would you help family caregivers save money and time so that they can continue to care for their loved ones?
Yeah, well, this is very personal. Literally before this meeting, I just came from a rehab center where my mom is. About a month ago, she fell and broke her hip, and she was in the hospital, and then she went to rehab center, and she's coming home tomorrow. She's lived with us for about 3 years because she has advanced dementia, so she can't, remember things. And so we are her caregivers, and we take that role gladly as family members. And I know that's unusual, but it does happen. And so I'll say that I am getting a very good education right now in terms of what services are offered, what's available, and I'll do what I can to protect that, because I think that a wise government will incentivize the citizens to do the right thing within the society. And I think that encouraging families to stay together even when parents or family members get into their later years to make it possible for them to be able to care for them and to take care of them in some way. And that could be, at a local home, or it could be in a family member's home. And so I want to support that and do what I can to make sure that's possible.
All right, thank you very much. And then our final question in our quick little Q&A here has to do with tribal relations, certainly an important thing here in our region. If elected to represent the district, what do you see your role being in terms of government-to-government relations with Washington's federally recognized tribal nations?
Yeah, well, it's something that I will certainly take on with honor. I will say that I think that the tribes need to encourage their citizens to not only take responsibility, but take an active role in the citizenship that they've been given. The tribes have a right to their space and to their land and to their rules and laws. They've been given many avenues of provision that other citizens don't have. But I think that what our best end is, and again, this is not an encroachment on tribal lands or anything like that, but as I look at what's going on in the tribal lands, I think that it's best that the tribal people take every opportunity to be as fully American as possible. In other words, to take advantage of all the benefits of being an American citizen, not just, sticking to their rights and the things that they have on the tribes. They are American citizens just like the rest of us. All of the, say, bad things that happened relationally between the tribes and the citizens, or call it the settlers of America, is well gone history. And so I think that we ought to work collectively and proactively towards strong integration between tribal people and all the rest of the citizens.
Well, Ms. Sessler, thank you very much for being here on behalf of the League and AARP of Washington State. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We want to thank everybody for watching these conversations with candidates in the 4th Congressional District of Washington. And a reminder, ballots go out beginning the 17th of July. That begins an 18-day period to vote. We encourage you to vote early, as the top 2 candidates in this primary will move on to the general. The official primary election day is August 4th. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Benton and Franklin County, the League of Yakima County, and AARP of Washington State, we thank you for watching Northwest Public Broadcasting and our Vote 2026 coverage.